Hi, I'm Katrina, and this is Boldly Challenging Ableism. I'm your host, Katrina Simons. I'm the Community Program Specialist at the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. This program explores various topics that impact people with disabilities in our community. Each episode addresses a different aspect of our society within the context of ableism. Ableism is the prejudice that stems from the belief or belief system that assumes someone is less capable or less worthy because of a real or perceived difference in ability or function. On this program, we hope to answer some questions you may have been afraid to ask, or maybe some you didn't even know you had. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Boldly today. Hope you're having a good day. I feel like those are harder to come by these days, but I hope you're having one. Today, we have two shorter episodes for you. We have Ed Bartz and Michael Sack. Ed Bartz is a disability advocate that lives in New York, and Michael Sack is a local disability advocate that lives here in Minneapolis. Their episodes are a little bit shorter because they use augmentative and alternative communication devices, or AAC. And how those work is instead of using your mouth to speak, you use like an output device, for lack of a better term. It's usually a designated device or an iPad. And sometimes they used to have like pictures that you could use to communicate. But so instead of using your mouth, you would select what you want to say on whatever device you're using, and they can set it up in any number of ways. But when people are using that to speak on our podcast, we send them the questions a little bit earlier, and then they program their answers into their device. And so that's why we couldn't supplement with additional questions when they were done with the questions we had sent them, because they did not have those, they would not have had those answers programmed into their device. So AAC is pretty cool, and you can learn a lot about it, and you can do a lot of things with it. I am not an AAC expert, and if you want more information from an expert, you should either go on YouTube and hear an expert talk about it, or if you're worried about yourself or someone you love needing an AAC device or wondering how they might work for someone, you would go to a speech and language pathologist, and they have tons of assessments they can do, and it's a long process, but it's definitely worth it. Something interesting is that Ed would have started his advocacy work without the ability to use an AAC device that was as efficient as the one that he uses now. And so that's really interesting because Ed's a little bit older. There's also a lot of research that says that using AAC for people with language difficulties, which is like difficulties populating the speech that you want to use in your brain, that using that can actually help language develop faster if people are having communication difficulties. Both Ed and Michael have been able to do really, really, really effective advocacy work using AAC devices. If there was something that I could have done differently, I would have had them time the amount of time that their answers took to play off of their device so that I could ask them the appropriate number of questions, but it's season 1 and I didn't do that. I apologize, and I will fix it in season 2 if there is a season 2. So thanks again for tuning into Boldly. We're really enjoying seeing what people think of this show, and we really appreciate you listening. And again, if you have questions about AAC, please go to an expert and don't go to me. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for season 2. All right, welcome to Boldly. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you're having a good day. Our guest today is Edward Bartz, and he's joining us from the state of New York. Welcome to the show, Ed. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello. Thank you for having me as a guest. Let me tell our audience a little about myself. I live in Troy, New York. I have cerebral palsy and receive services from Rensselaer ARC. The DSPs who help me on a daily basis help me with my daily routine, going to meetings and various appointments. As they are doing their job, they seemingly tolerate my sense of humor along with me singing to the stereo in my van. I listen to mostly 80s and 90s pop because I know most of the words. Like most people, I make up what I don't know,
Thanks for that. What sticks out about your childhood?
While growing up, I never imagined owning my own van. I am paying off a 2014 Honda Odyssey. This is my favorite investment. I have the freedom to come and go as I please.
Okay, where and when did your advocacy work start?
I started my journey as a self-advocate at a very young age. This wasn't easy. My natural speech can be difficult to understand and has become more difficult for me to produce as I have gotten older. I am using my communication device to tell my story today. Without this device, I would be trapped inside my head. A scary place to be for anybody. Growing up, my living situation varied from rehabilitation hospitals, nursing homes, living with a friend, and so on. Each move helped me develop in one way or another. I learned what I did and didn't want with each new chapter. Getting people to stop and listen and hear wasn't always easy. I didn't have my communication device until I was 30. I was under the impression that people would always take the time to understand my natural speaking voice. What changed my mind? You may be asking yourself. My wants, needs, and desires became more detailed and complex. I had to think about how to get my thoughts out faster to make myself accessible not only to people I knew but to people who had no idea who I was. Communication is essential in gaining employment.
Excellent, thank you. Social media has made a big impact on lots of different types of advocacy and activism. What are some positives you've seen or experienced from that?
Again, continuing to make people aware of the challenges I and others like myself continue to face. Advocacy work starts out to be trying to get things for yourself, but you soon realize that there are others with the same wants and needs.
Great, excellent. You are someone with a lot of wisdom around the disability justice movement. You've been a leader for a while now. What can you share with people who want to be good allies in the disability justice movement?
I am known as a trailblazer. I have done and continue to do things other people in my situation just dream about or can't even fathom. What drives me? Knowing that I am in a country where all people are said to have equal rights. As we know, regardless of our status in this day and time, we are finding we have to fight for those equal rights. I am currently advocating for an agency to support my girlfriend and I to live together. Money is the backbone of any new undertaking. In New York State, this is definitely a huge issue. Agencies are reluctant to create and begin new programs and projects. That being said, we are willing to trailblaze once again to obtain our dreams.
Thank you for that. Do you feel hopeful about the future of disability services?
I know I can't stop asking for what I need and want.
All right, Ed. Last question. What do you want us to remember from this interview?
Thank you again for asking me to be a guest. What I would our listeners to put in their back pocket is, your dreams and goals justify just yours alone. It takes lots of work and energy to help people get you where you want to be.
All right. Well, thanks, Ed, for joining us. We're really happy you could be here. We know we put you through a lot. And thanks to our listeners for joining us here on Boldly, and we'll see you next time.
Boldly is a co-production of AM 950 and the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. For more information, please visit ici.umn.edu.
right. Thanks for tuning into Boldly today. Our guest today is Michael Sack, a local activist here in the Twin Cities. Michael and I have crossed paths a couple times in recent years, but we don't know each other very well. But we're so excited to have him here on Boldly, and we'll let him tell you more about himself. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It is nice to talk to you today. I am Michael Sack, a South Minneapolis resident. I will be using an augmentative and alternative communication application on my iPad for this interview. I currently serve on the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities and attend RISE Incorporated, a rehabilitation program for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Additionally, I play power soccer on a local team, and our season is actually about to start up. I enjoy watching Minnesota sports, as I split partial Twins season tickets with a friend.
And Michael, you play power soccer, and I think you've been doing that for a number of years. I'm not sure how many years.
About 13 years.
13 years?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I'm just going to briefly tell people what power soccer is. Power soccer is like regular soccer, except the ball is bigger and you use your chair, right, to drive it from goal to goal and to keep it out of the goal.
Yes.
Yep. So one thing that's really cool about power soccer that's not true about all adaptive athletics is that people with more significant disabilities can now have a chance to participate and play and be in sports, which is something that had been a hard thing for quite a while.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Thanks so much for letting me know that, because I don't play power soccer, so I wasn't sure exactly if I was right. But thanks for confirming what I said.
Yes.
And we hope you have a great season.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what kinds of advocacy you're involved in, Michael?
I have had numerous opportunities to build up my disability advocacy skills. During the 2020 election cycle, I was a volunteer on Emma Greenman's State House 63B campaign, assisting with voter accessibility, where I created a voter guide for individuals who have disabilities and managed a Facebook page about accessibility at the polls. A year later, I worked for Sheila Nizhat's Minneapolis mayoral campaign as a disability policy and engagement consultant. I researched disability policies from around the country, created her disability platform, and provided guidance on how to reach voters with disabilities. In June of 2021, I founded the Minneapolis Sidewalk Repair Hunters, a community-led effort to locate and report inaccessible sidewalks and curb cuts, such as heaves, that could impede access to someone who uses a mobility device, wide cane, or stroller, as well as every pedestrian. I submit reports to the city of Minneapolis every month or so, depending on how many submissions I receive. I first created a Facebook page and then made a whole website a couple months later that details the effort myself. As I mentioned before, I am a member of the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities. The mayor-appointed committee provides input on how to implement Americans with Disabilities Act features and mechanisms into city and park board projects, as well as how to ensure that the city government is accessible to all. I have made several suggestions that would enhance accessibility to a variety of projects. In August of last year, I helped a freelance writer with an article about 2 electric poles that were blocking sidewalk access on Excelsior Avenue in southwest Minneapolis. I didn't actually help write it, but I assisted her with analyzing the area and providing an example for visualizations. The writer contacted Excel Energy and the company ultimately removed the poles.
Wow, that's exciting. I go to the Menards on Pryor Avenue in St. Paul, and they have a pole now in the middle of the sidewalk, and I used to just be able to go, like, cut across the parking lot, but they put a fence around the parking lot so you can't cut across it. And so like now it's super dangerous for me to go to Menards.
Very good.
I mean, I still do it, but yeah. So I really appreciate your work with the telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Okay. So Michael, can you tell us how and where your advocacy happens?
I mostly do my work either on my computer or iPad, so I can keep up with things while riding Metro Mobility. I sometimes roll around looking for sidewalk deficiencies. Our committee meetings are held virtually on the third Wednesday of each month, so I just go into my bedroom and join on my laptop during our gathering. Whenever news organizations request interviews, I either have the interviewee send me questions via email or set up a Zoom session so I can use my AAC application. Last spring, I was interviewed by Gordon Severson from Car 11 at Rise about the Minneapolis City Council's decision to delay their transportation network company ride-share ordinance.
Wow. You're like the busiest person I know, and it's pretty difficult for you to get places sometimes, I would imagine, with the snow in Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Way to go. Can you tell us what drove you to be an activist?
I feel like I have been a disability advocate for a while. I co-managed a blog for over a decade with a friend titled Two Men On that covered accessibility and disability-related topics, as well as baseball and the Twins. I have also written numerous opinion columns about disability and accessibility issues for various publications. Realistically, though, my skills and interest spiked out of boredom in the early stages of the pandemic. It wasn't until when I first met with my current city council member, Emily Kowski, in late 2021 that I heard of the advisory committee. Right then I knew that being on the committee was right for me because I could bring in my expertise and personal experiences to provide meaningful input to projects and programs.
That's great. And advisory committees, I say this as both someone who respects them and someone who runs them. They really are really important for people to be on, and they do a lot of really good work. So thank you so much for spending your time on being on the advisory committees. Can you tell us what is the most frustrating thing you've encountered in your advocacy this far?
Honestly, not much has been frustrating. As the city staff have gotten to know me and with the addition of Minneapolis's first community specialist for people with disabilities last year, things have gone mostly smooth with my advocacy happenings. The city's response time has been much faster when I report sidewalk obstructions. In addition, having made an early connection with my city council member has been extremely helpful as she is supportive of making the city of Minneapolis accessible and welcoming for everyone. If I had to choose one frustrating situation, though, it would have to be trying to convince state legislators that more state funding is necessary to improve accessibility across the state. Constituents ask for a lot of help and provide a wide array of suggestions that representatives and senators need to sort through and decide which ones to put in bills. For a couple years now, there has been a bill that has been introduced that would provide $5 million to enhance sidewalks and fund other ADA projects in Minneapolis. That legislation has not been passed yet, but I am hopeful since it would benefit everyone if the bill becomes law soon.
Yeah, and it's a budget year in the legislature this year, so who knows? Also, the Trump presidency is going to start, so also, who knows?
Yeah.
Both things. So we'll see. It's like a toss-up. Can you let us know how people without disabilities can support your work?
The whole community, those with disabilities and those who are able-bodied, should realize that making accessibility improvements to sidewalks and infrastructure benefits everyone. Every resident and visitor should not be hesitant to contact city officials or community organizations if they see something inaccessible or that could be improved to make it accessible for everyone. Regarding sidewalk access in Minneapolis, your listeners can go to nplssrh.org to learn more about how they can help improve pathways in the City of Lakes.
Yeah. Well, I don't live in Minneapolis. I live in St. Paul. But I always say, because you know how in the snow, they always shovel all the snow onto the wheelchair cutaways? And I always say, well, if you shovel that snow so that people can get to the cutaways, that doesn't just help people in wheelchairs. It helps people with strollers. It helps people with an unsteady gait. It's probably just good for even like athletes, because ice, when you're walking into the street, is not a good idea. So all this work helps everyone, not just ourselves. Can you tell us something positive or gratifying about your work?
I will tell you about an accessibility victory that happened this year that was initiated by me. Last December, while browsing the Minneapolis Park Board website, I noticed that a $35 million redevelopment project was in the works for North Commons Park, which will include the first 3-court field house to be built in Minneapolis. I immediately contacted the project manager to set up a meeting to discuss the importance of incorporating adapted athletics into the plans. After our initial conversation, he set up a meeting with representatives from the United States Power Soccer Association, Midwest Power Soccer Association, and Courage Kenny Rehabilitation Center. In the initial design, the only way to get down to the below-grade field house was either by stairs or a small elevator. The 3 adapted athletic advocates recommended adding an indoor ramp for another way to get down to the courts. The project manager said that he would bring the suggestion up with his design team but made no promises. When I received the next update about the new development, an indoor ramp was added and there was a design concept created. The project is supposed to start sometime next year. I was so grateful and thrilled that the project team listened to the adapted athletics community. The new facility has the potential to be a big boon for adapted sports in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. Well, wow, that's such a great story, too. It has so many layers to it. If it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you one more question, but I think I'm going to turn it into a yes or no question, so you can, because it's not on the sheet. Is that okay?
I've asked a few.
Okay. So I'll just stick to the sheet then. I was just wondering what you want your take-home message to be for the audience.
Creating an accessible world can't be accomplished by just a couple people working hard. Everyone has to do their part, no matter how small it is. Advocating may seem time-consuming when nothing seems to be getting done, but when speaking up succeeds ending in an accessibility gain, it definitely feels like the effort was worth it. As winter approaches and snow falls, a great way to start is by helping your elderly and disabled neighbors shovel their sidewalks. Keeping sidewalks free from snow is super important for safety and provides a smooth and clear route for users who use mobility devices. When snow is piled up near curb cuts, it is nearly impossible to access it, and a wheelchair could potentially get stuck, causing a dangerous situation. I will end by saying don't be afraid to speak up and communicate with your city council members. They are extremely helpful, but members just need to know how they can assist. Council members are the key to making cities accessible and inclusive for all, and making connections with them is a must to further disability and accessibility awareness.
Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Thank
Can I also just add that I think shoveling the sidewalks is also the law.
Yes.
So it's always good to follow the law also. Well, thanks so much for coming today, Michael. You are quite impressive. You've done a lot of things. I'm going to need to go home and get my shovel out. And make sure you tune in next week to Boldly, because we've got a lot of great guests coming. And again, we want to thank you, Michael, for coming, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And nice to be here.
Boldly Challenging Ableism is a co-production of AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. For more information, please visit ici.umn.edu.